1, 2, 3.
Hello, welcome to Rock the Cash Bar. I'm Ben Mowbray.
And I'm Diane Gallagher.
Every week we pick one song and do a deep dive into the lyrics and explain the different ways they've been interpreted.
We will also discuss how the song connected to us on a personal level, focusing on all the embarrassing details.
Glad to have you here. Enjoy the show. Good afternoon, Diane. How are you?
Good afternoon. I'm in a much better mood this week.
Yeah, me too. How was your 4th of July?
I pretended it didn't exist.
Uh,
Actually, no, I went to our ranch and I just kind of blew up a white trash swimming pool in the front because it's so hot. We don't have a pool there, but we have like just one of those big pools I got from Academy that you blow up. And
you actually inflated one. For a second, I thought you were so angry. You're just like, yeah, I bought a white trash above ground pool and I blew it up.
I felt like that for a few days. That would have been glorious.
You ever throw some dynamite into an above ground pool, you'll feel a lot better after that.
Oh yeah, yeah. Can we open a place where you can set off dynamite? That would be great.
Got $1 million idea.
There's a place, it's somewhere in Texas, but it's really expensive. Corbin wants to do it, but he won't pay the price because he's already done it. He's ex-military, but you can like drive a tank and do like all this like super like military stuff. I think you can shoot bazookas. I don't know, but it's really expensive. If you could just bring that to the people at a better price, it would be great. Those rooms that you can go to where you break stuff, like that's fine, but God, I just think about the person who has to clean all that up, or the person who has to clean up, sticking dynamite in an above ground pool.
An old silver mine and turn it into a terrifying like theme park.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like riding mine carts, Indiana Jones style. It
Yeah.
should be done. You're going to have to sign a waiver.
Yes, you are. This is the level of crazy that you have gone that you're like, this is on you, but we're going to let you go. Yeah. So anyway, I blew up the pool. I took a plastic chair and I stuck it in the pool and I drank a little and I just zoned out and it was perfect. It was great.
Absolutely the right way to be.
Yeah. I put myself in a good mindset.
I went to a bar called Space Cowboy, which has a hotel attached to it.
Okay.
I don't know how to describe it. It's like, this has always been my dream and somebody beat me to it. But could you imagine buying like an old shitty Motel 6 and fixing it up, putting in some theme rooms, gussying up the pool, putting in a real cool bar next door? It'd be fantastic. It would be absolutely heaven. And that's what somebody's done. So me and some of my friends rented rooms at this place.
Where is this?
It's Cavalcade. Yeah.
Okay.
It's in here.
Okay.
So I rented a room and I set up a little mini bar. So people were like, my friends were running up and down like, hey, here's the key. We're in 312. Just run up there, grab some drink. So we were doing that all afternoon until I was quite drunk.
Yeah.
They threw us out of the pool at like 10 o'clock at night. So we all went upstairs to somebody else's room. And that's when they started passing the marijuana around, Diane.
Are you dabbling in the devil?
Yeah, I do. I smoke just about every night, but only when I'm, like by myself or with my intimate partner.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I lose my mind. Like I can't talk to anybody. I lose the thread. I can't respond to anything. I become like a social black hole. But I was with people that I really trusted and we were, alone. There was no strangers or anything like that. So I thought I'll just get high and see if I can vibe. I cannot vibe.
You couldn't vibe. I can't either. I mean, I have finally learned. I go to this place and I get like this juice. It's like this blue raspberry juice. And I have done my science experiments and I'm like a tablespoon of this juice. And I am okay. I could probably drive, which I couldn't before on anything. I can carry conversations. I told Corbin, and maybe it's all in my head, I was like, with this perfect amount, I'm funny like a black dude. Like the way like the dudes I went to high school with that were like straight up stoners, but were the funniest dudes I've ever met. The funniest things would come out of their mouths. And I was like, I am on their level with just this tablespoon. I start talking and thinking the way like a high old black dude would.
That really should be like on the branding. Like once pot is finally legal in this state.
This bitch gets
Black.
funny like a black dude.
It makes middle-aged white ladies funny like a black dude.
It needs some programming. I did go to a black high school. It's in there. It just comes out when I'm high.
I can't believe that I'm 42 years old and I'm at a point where there's honestly there's a rational part of my brain that's going, man, you need to learn how to do drugs. Like you need how to do that. Like it's ridiculous that you're 42 years old, you can't smoke a little bit of pot with your friends and giggle.
Right. Well, I mean, pot has come a long way. I think the reason I struggled so bad, like especially in high school, is we're getting just dirty swag and it wasn't the right strain. Like I have to get the right strain, the right amount, the right power, and then you're like, okay, there is my prescription for pot. Yeah.
Like I just want to be left alone.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Does that make me crazy?
Pot used to make me crazy. We're going to talk about some crazy.
We're doing Crazy today by CeeLo Green. Well, Gnarls Barkley. I focused on CeeLo Green. It seemed like Crazy was more his song than
Yeah.
anything else. But it's by Gnarls Barkley. Gnarls Barkley, I'm going to tell you everything I know about Gnarls Barkley in less than 5 seconds. Gnarls Barkley is CeeLo Green and a DJ called Danger Mouse.
Yeah.
And they got together in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
Done. That is all the Gnarls Barkley knowledge I'm going to be dropping on you today.
Yeah. That's all I got.
Yeah. This is one of those episodes where like I started doing a little bit of research. Like I'm not going to pretend to know this stuff. Like I can't pretend that I know the Dungeon Family, the Goody Mob.
Yeah.
I'm not well versed in the history of late 90s, early 2000s Atlanta hip hop. And I'm not going to lie to you and pretend that I am.
Yeah, and I don't think it's necessary for this. I chose this song because it's great. I mean, it's great. It was voted by, there was this panel of okay, no one cares what Yoko Ono thinks, but this was chosen by a panel of experts including Yoko Ono, Lil Wayne, Lars Ulrich, plus critics and industry insiders as Rolling Stone's #1 song of the 2000s.
Lars is never wrong about anything.
Lars, everybody listens to Lars. It's such a good song, and I just want to, after we go through these lyrics, I want to talk about times when we've been legitimately crazy.
Yep, it's really is a fascinating. I was obviously I'd always loved the song, like the hook just works its way into your brain, so it's always been there ever since it came out. I never paid any attention to the lyrics. They're fascinating, like they're absolutely, it's brilliant the way that let's do it.
I remember when I lost my mind. There was something so pleasant about that place. Even your emotions have an echo in so much space.
I remember when I lost my mind. There was something so pleasant about that place. Even your emotions had an echo in so much space. I love that line. Even your emotions had an echo in so much space.
That's so dripping with imagery, and even if you don't feel like you fully understand what he means, if you've ever lost your mind, you do.
I think he means this, like obviously he means he's saying it's a very pleasant place, but it made me think of negative things. Have you ever been like afraid or angry and you didn't want anybody around to know it, so you're trying to like swallow it down, and like is my face acting normal, is my breathing normal, like how's the timbre of my voice, right? Like but you're still like, you're like in some level of panic and just looking around like, I hope they don't notice, I hope they can't see this.
I'm gonna tell you a story when we're done with this. I've felt that every single time I've had a panic attack in public, but then when I had a nervous breakdown, I had to do it in front of company. It happened when company arrived, and yeah, trying to be like, I'm okay when I was at the worst thing that has ever happened to me. Yeah, it's bizarre.
Making a note. Remember to ask Diane about her nervous breakdown.
Yeah, it's we'll get there. Yeah.
And when you're out there without care, yeah, I was out of touch. But it wasn't because I didn't know enough. I just knew too much.
And when you're out there without care, yeah, I was out of touch, but it wasn't because I didn't know enough. I just knew too much. Yep.
That's a good one. That's what I don't relate because when I lost my mind, I was terrified, and he has this like I just let go into crazy in a joyful
Yeah.
way, which I wish
Yeah.
I could have.
Yeah, I think the form of crazy that he's talking about is really positive. Like I found some quotes where he's talking about when he, when he says crazy, what he means is letting go of what other people think. You
Mm,
know, for him as an artist, I think that was very freeing for him.
yeah.
He was able to let go of criticism and just be himself, just say it exactly the way he wanted to say it, move the way he wants to move, and sing the way that he wants to sing. But he's right. Like that's a pretty good definition of crazy. That's like it's somebody who's become untethered, like somebody who's outside of the judgment of others or unencumbered by the judgment of others. You would say that person's crazy. Whether it's something extreme, writing your name in feces on the wall, or or just like that's generally what we think of as crazy. Is that person seems to have no regard for others. That can be positive or negative.
Well, that's what's so funny because like in therapy, that's what you're trying to do is just accept yourself and be yourself and not care about other people's judgment. But so many people in the world are trying to conform to each other and be a part of little tribes and stuff. And then when they see someone just being their own person, we label them as crazy. And I'm like, that's the person that's got it. You're
Yes.
all crazy because you don't know who you are. Yeah.
You're not centered.
Does that make me crazy? Does that make me crazy? Does that make me crazy? Possibly.
So does that make me crazy? Does that make me crazy? Okay, I'm going to sing it, then you sing it, and then we won't sing it again. All right. Does that make me crazy?
Does that make me crazy?
We got it out of our systems.
Possibly.
I think I'll be singing it again.
Does that make me crazy? I will say my favorite song to sing karaoke is CeeLo's Fuck You. It's so cathartic. It is the best song to sing karaoke. Give it a shot.
I will.
And I hope that you are having the time of your life. But think twice. That's my only advice.
And I hope that you're having the time of your life, but think twice. That's my only advice. That seems to be what this song is all about. Like it's totally about self-awareness, right?
Yeah.
Like it keeps coming back to that. It wasn't because I didn't know enough. I just knew too much. And then the next line, and I hope that you're having the time of your life, but think twice. That's my only advice. Be aware of what you're doing.
Yeah. Be present. Be present and yeah, centered and focused on what you're doing.
Yeah. And I think particularly at peaks and valleys, right? And I hope that you're having the time of your life, but think twice. That's my only advice. I don't know about you, but the dumbest things I've ever done in my life, I did because I was feeling too damn good.
Yeah.
Just too good in the moment, too confident.
But it's also the stories we tell about you when we are thinking fondly of you. Our good memories of Ben when he lost his mind. Me and Corbin took you, I don't know what we were doing during the day in like a Barnes and Noble. I think it was a Borders bookstore back then on
Barnes and Noble in my mid-20s, yeah.
Or Richmond or something. No, it was on West Alabama across from that Whole Foods.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden we hear someone quoting something out of a book really loud, like disturbingly loud, Ben, where we're like, me and Corbin just look at each other like, where's Ben? Get him out of here. And we go up there and I think you've knocked some books off a shelf and then you're quoting something with a book in it. We're like, get out, Ben, we have to leave. You can't act like this in public.
I'm doing my very best to still try to find a way to think that that's funny.
I thought it was great.
The truth is, I just nothing but shame.
Oh no!
Yeah, I don't know.
You're not boring. I can't do boring. That's the thing. I cannot do boring people.
I can't vouch for that guy anymore, though. I don't approve of his behavior.
In that moment, I was like, we don't know him and we got to get him out. But as soon as we were out the door, I was like, that was great. What were you doing?
don't know. Like, I can't even, like, if I saw somebody like that age pulling shit like that now, like I would absolutely lose my mind, because I would just be like, in a bookstore, a bookstore.
Yeah.
The only reason you're doing it here is because you know nobody's going to challenge you.
Well, if I didn't know you and
You get away with it.
if I didn't know you and I was like a stranger and you started doing that, I would walk as far. If I had a kid, I'd be grabbing him and pulling. It's like, you just seem unstable. You're about to pull out a gun. But like, I knew you and I knew like he's just being theatric. It's great.
I think I'm better behaved now. I think. This is where the song takes a turn.
Come on now, who do you think you are? Bless your soul. You really think you're in control?
In the second verse, he goes, "Come on now, who do you think you are?" Hey, bless your soul. You really think you're in control? Well, I think you're crazy. I think you're crazy, just like me. So it's about self-examination, I think.
He's talking to himself here, right?
Yeah, I think it could be he's talking to himself, or he could be talking to somebody who hasn't, maybe not necessarily the therapy, but somebody who hasn't gone through whatever it is that he's gone through. You know, if there's somebody that's like, I'm perfectly sane, everything's fine.
Right.
Is it?
No.
It's not possible. You're human. Like, you've got your fabric has been damaged. Somebody's, you know, you've been hurt. You've been bruised. You can't get to any age without being affected. You know, to wander around like everything's cool and you're the strongest person in the room and you're all composed. You're lying to yourself and everybody around you, and that's crazy.
Yeah, so I had two different thoughts about this lyric. I was like, is he talking to himself or is he talking to someone else? And I connect with this so much. Like, it's a wisdom that he has that he's only gotten through going through this. And this is how I feel like doing the work in therapy in my 40s and then watching like some people that we know like online in their 20s trying to work on themselves and seeing their process. And to me, I'm like, you're going external, trying to find answers externally. And I'm sorry to like my astrology people, my witches and stuff, but it's not out there. It's not in birth charts. It's not in a retrograde. It's not in a sky bully or Jesus to me. And I'm sorry, this is just my opinion. I'm like, after going through all of that, I've done all of that. It's all inside. You're going the wrong way. You have to go in. It's inside and it's facing yourself. And once no one wants to do it, whenever you get close to like looking inside, and then it's just a septic tank of shit that you got to swim in. That's what you are. And facing that, and people like can't do it. So then they just shove outwards. They just keep going outwards. I'm like, you're going to be miserable if you keep doing that. You have to go in. But then I scold myself because I was like, Diane, in your 20s, could you have gone in the way you're going in now, like you are in your 40s? No, I would have drank that thought away and I would have pushed. And it's not until you can let it go, like he's talking about, let go and just be like, all right, I'm ready to look at myself. I'm ready to swim in the shit and then sit in it for years in therapy and keep working through the shit inside. And that's what I feel like he's doing. He's like, you think you've got this figured out? I'm looking like a younger person's like, you're nowhere near ready for the work, and just relax. It'll come in your 40s. That's when you're ready to face it.
Yeah, that's what this song makes me think about. But it makes me think about how arrogant and ignorant I was when I was in my mid 20s and early 20s. You know, you just could not tell me anything. Like, I was just absolutely certain that I had it all. It's amazing to me to like how completely that's turned around. You know, at 22, I knew absolutely everything, and at 42, I'll be like, I don't know a fucking thing about this world.
Yeah.
Like,
That's what, yeah. And what is that? What is it about our 20s that makes us, we just want it. We feel like we're finally adults, but our prefrontal cortexes didn't stop developing, like fully developed till you're like, what, 23? So then when you're like, you know, even like 28, you're just a few years past that. You're still babies and figuring out stuff, but you want it so bad. You want to be seen as this adult, and you want to think like an adult, and especially if you went to college, you're just getting like inundated with theory, lots of theory. All college is like giving you theory and information, and you have that energy to like research everything in your 20s, which I did. Every religion, every mythology, I did it all. And then it's not until you live after that and then your theories fail and life gets very real that like, and I don't know what it is. We talked about it so many times on this podcast. Like you're ready to face it all after a certain age.
I think it's because when you're 22 or 23, you haven't really lost anything yet. Now that's
Yeah.
not like, obviously there are people who've lost, family members and close friends. Like, I'm not talking about that kind of trauma.
Right.
I'm talking about the sort of the normal well, how old were you when you first went into therapy?
Like late 30s, maybe like 30 when I had my nervous breakdown. So 2016, whatever that was.
So at this point, you're married and you're a mother, so you have permanent relationships that need constant daily work.
Yep.
You've probably had a couple of relationships that for whatever reason didn't work out, so you learn things about yourself. It's one thing to walk away from a relationship going, that bitch was awful.
Yeah.
It's another thing to walk away from it and just go, I have a real part in this.
I had a big part of why that was volatile. Yeah.
Yes. It's a weird thing. We've talked about it many times. When you let somebody get close to you, you're letting that stranger or this person that you're getting to know, you have to show them the shitty parts of yourself, like the parts of you that you're not proud of, the parts of you that you haven't fixed yet, the parts of you that you're still working on. You have to ask this person to love a part of you that you don't love yourself, and it's a really, really difficult thing to do. And I think that's a level of that's what we're talking about. When you're 22 or 23, that hasn't happened to you yet. By the time you're 34 or 35, it's probably happened to you 2 or 3 times. And you're just like,
yeah,
and other people have discovered those flaws.
it's wild because I think, yeah, in your 20s, you're just putting out like, love all the beautiful parts of me. You look so good in your 20s and you're constantly like, you see girls in their 20s, their whole Instagram is their face because it's so pretty at that time. You're so proud of it. You're so obsessed with your face. And you're just putting out there like, love all the best parts of me. And then the reality hits later in life when you're just like, I might need, if you're gonna love me, you're gonna have to love this shit that I have too. Because I'm working on it. I'm finally working on it, but it ain't going away anywhere real fast.
All the way into the deep end.
Yeah. And in your 40s, you start like becoming more aware that you're aging. In your 20s, it's going to happen, but you don't see it. You don't feel it. You can smoke cigarettes all night and get up and run the next day. Like your mortality becomes apparent after you have a kid and after you start like really aging, which makes me wonder, like someone like Corbin's dad listens to this and he's in his 70s. Like the way I'm talking about the way 20-year-olds think, how is he like, all right, try it. I got some wisdom for you at 70. You don't know shit at 40, you little dumbass. I'm just so like, well, tell me, because now I'm ready to listen.
Does it ever get any better? Like, do you ever get to a point where you're confident and happy in your decisions? I worry about it.
It gets a little better.
I never listened to our show. I've never listened to an episode of it because like I've wanted to be a writer my whole life. And there's nothing more embarrassing than going back and reading something that I wrote last week or 10 years ago. Like it just makes me cringe. So I'm scared to go back and listen to those podcast episodes because even something that I think and really felt a year ago, I've changed my opinion on, or I won't be happy with the way that I said it.
And also, sometimes we record these on an emotional day when we probably shouldn't have, and then I go back and I'm like, Dan, tone it down. Nobody wants to hear that shit. Yeah, that's just part of being human. And, we're raw on this sometimes. And if someone doesn't like it, I just like, well, I can turn it off. They can try again next week.
You can always hit the pause button and move on.
Yeah.
The third verse.
My hero had the heart to lose the lives I wanna live. And all I remember is thinking I wanna be like them. Ever since I was little, it looked like fun. And there's no coincidence I've come. And I can die when I'm done.
My heroes had the heart to lose their lives out on a limb. Courage. And all I remember is thinking I want to be like them. Ever since I was little, it looked like fun. And it's no coincidence I've come. And I can die when I'm done.
I
So
love that.
yeah, CeeLo's found a little bit of satisfaction. He's achieved his goals by freeing his mind, allowing himself to go a little crazy. He accomplished what he set out to do.
You got to break that egg before you can make that omelet, you know?
A
Yeah,
snapping screen open like CeeLo.
yeah. Except
Okay.
like, dude, just being like, sometimes you break open, you're like, this is who I am, and not gonna fight anymore, and I'm gonna accept it. Or you can break it open and be like, this is who I am, and I don't like this and this and this anymore, and I'm gonna do the hard ass work to change it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But
I
I
have
think
not.
he just like, this is it. This is who I am, and I like this. I will say that he said a little bit about the song that it was '04. I was going through a divorce. I didn't have a deal. Things were bleak at the time, and it was an opportunity to be expressive. And I mean, that's all he really says about it. Maybe there was a lot more going on, but it made me laugh because I was like, yeah, because you're a famous and really creative and really good at this, but the rest of like the regular folk, when all this happens to them, they just have meltdowns on Facebook. We have to watch that, and it's not creative, and it's not a great song. It's just like, ugh, stop it. Silence
Some
her for a little bit.
takes him to the top of the charts. Other people's crazy takes him to the bottom of the social media.
We're like, I gotta pause Mandy for a while because it's like every hour she's writing a monologue, and I have done it. I have been her. How little. In 2008 when I went to New York and came back, and that was not good, and I was my creative outlet was like, let's just write about it, and everybody's watching like, wow, she's lost her mind. Like, I did
She's going crazy, and we all get to watch.
crazy, and not in a really fun #1 hit of the 2000s way.
So do you want to talk about your breakdown a little bit?
Sure. It's like I love talking about my mental instability. I really come to love therapy. Yeah, so go ahead.
Because I think if we can back, I think like everybody, I could benefit from therapy. I think everybody could. But when did you decide that you were going to pursue it? Like how did you, like what happened? Like how did you do it? Were you, I don't know how to put it. How did the tingle in your brain become the fire? It's like, okay, this needs to be dealt with today.
Well, so I mean, I had like some trauma in my teenage years, and I've always known like, and also therapy is just so widely accepted now that you're not crazy. It's widely accepted now that everybody should be doing this. And back when my trauma happened, it was still like only crazy people go to therapy. They called them shrinks. It was all like bad vibes all around the idea. But it's so hard to talk about what happened to me because I still never fully understood it. But it was in 2016. Everything was kind of stressful. We were living here in Friendswood, and Charlie was little, maybe like 2. He was 2. And I didn't realize at the time that I had postpartum. I thought this is just like what being a mom is. I didn't realize I was depressed because like I didn't know it wasn't normal to wake up every day and then start a countdown clock, like how many hours till I can go back to bed. Like it was every hour is like, okay, 7 more hours till I can go back to sleep. And I was just like, and I didn't know, like, that's severe depression. You don't want to be awake and doing things. So
How dumb I am.
mm,
I always thought that postpartum depression, like the first time I'd heard of the postpartum, it was explained to me that postpartum depression is the kind of depression that women get after they've given birth. And I thought it was just like the joy of the joy, like you're no longer pregnant anymore. So you're not special. People aren't giving up their seats for you anymore. Your body's not doing the strange.
no one did that for me. I hated being pregnant.
That's what postpartum was, and it wasn't until we just started having this conversation that I realized, like, no, postpartum depression is probably way more likely like a mother going, I'm gonna have to take care of this person for the whole rest of my life.
Well, some people get it worse than that. Like it's a hormonal thing that happens to you. It's all in your brain, and some women get it so severely they have hallucinations, and because it's stress. Dude, that first like few years, Charlie didn't sleep at all the first year. He didn't fucking sleep, Ben, which means I didn't fucking sleep, which will make you crazy. And so,
Yeah.
I
He
mean,
still
and
has a little sense about it.
Yeah, it was, I call it trauma. It was traumatic. As much as I look back at those pictures of him as a baby and I loved him and he was so cute, it was traumatic. It was hard, especially doing it when I didn't have the energy. I got pregnant late, like in my mid 30s. But where did my train of thought go? Oh, so I mean, the woman that like drowned her kids in her car, I can't remember her name. It was a big story. That was
Right.
postpartum. And people who don't understand it, they get mad and they don't want to hear it. And I'm like, she wasn't okay and she didn't get checked on. And like after you give birth, the doctors in the hospitals, they're like, you fucking tell someone if you start having hallucinations, if you're not okay, because it can spiral real fast. It can get
Yeah.
real bad real fast. And I remember a woman I worked with at the time telling me after her second kid, she was under so much stress and she was having postpartum so bad that she looked at her baby, like it was time to feed and she was so tired and her husband was bringing her a baby and she just remember thinking like, do not bring them to me. Do not give him to me. And then when he did, she looked at him and his face morphed into a demon and she was like, wanted
Yeah.
to throw him. I mean, and that's how bad it gets. Like postpartum, I mean, it's got a string of bad things that can happen. I mean, you're hallucinating, you're stressed. And then there's like a weird, I think it's all hormonal. Like you have all these hormones when you're pregnant, and then it drops afterwards. And then I had issues with breastfeeding. I couldn't breastfeed, and I felt like there wasn't a connection. And then I didn't realize it. And then I didn't have any friends out here. I wasn't the social person I used to be. It was a lot of things. And then also, it was a recession. Corbin's job wasn't doing great. He was stressed out. And I think it all just, I'm the type of person who won't recognize it when it's happening. And I'm just like, barrel through, get through your day, get through your day. And like, what it felt like is my tires had been spinning and spinning and spinning. And finally, my brain took a stick and like stuck it through the spokes and was like, stop, we're
Yeah.
shutting down. We're not doing this
Mhm.
anymore. And so what happened was we had just had a vacation in Fredericksburg and I had had like two panic attacks in the middle of the night. I wasn't doing good. Like one really bad where I'd like put my forehead on the tile floor of this cabin we were in and I was breathing so heavily and then I don't remember anything and I was like, did I die? Like it was like a serious like my heart was beating so fast and then I kind of blacked out and I was like, did I die that day? It was so bizarre. So we drove home and I had like no sleep and Corbin's cousins, we were like racing the clock to get home and Corbin's cousins were flying in from New York with their son who's Charlie's age and they were going to meet cousins for the first time. So we're racing the clock to get home at the same time and then we get home and I am exhausted beyond I've ever felt exhausted before, but I couldn't like do anything because I was like, they're coming. I have to get the house ready. We've been out of town. And I remember just chugging coffee, which is the worst thing to do if you have anxiety. It's jet fuel for anxiety. And I had like 10 minutes and they were coming. And I remember I laid down in the bed and I was shaking and I was starting to kind of zone out. And then the doorbell rang and that the doorbell rang and my body, that's when the broomstick went into the spokes and my body just went, we're out. You're not here anymore. And it's,
Mhm.
I cannot describe it, but it was basically 4 straight days of what I've learned from therapy. The term is called derealization. You do not feel like you're in your body anymore. Like you're not driving. It was like my body, I detached. And I remember telling Corbin, like, I was like, do you see my arms like doing this? I don't know who's doing that. I'm not
Mhm.
running this body. And it
It's
was,
a out of body experience.
it was, I lost like 15 pounds in 4 days. I couldn't eat. Like, and
Mhm.
I eat. Guys, I'm an eater. I've never had an eating disorder. I eat. And I just remember putting a piece of toast to my mouth and like I couldn't even open my lips because I think my body was like, where's it gonna go? It felt like someone took the tube above my stomach and tied it in a knot and then tied it in another knot and then another. And I was like, there's nothing, nothing can go in, like nothing. And
I know
I was dehydrated. I went to the emergency room like twice in one weekend because I was like, I'm having a heart attack. Like it just keeps happening and I couldn't eat. Um, but the derealization was the weirdest part where like I just was like, how long is this gonna last? And then like we have company. Like we have company. And I just remember being so embarrassed, but
that.
telling like pulling Corbin into the room, trying to explain quickly, like while they're like setting up and hi, this is Hudson, this is and I'm like, so, I don't know what's happening to me, but like I can't. I can't. And he had to like basically take the whole weekend with the family and do stuff. And they're like, what's going on with Diane? And he's probably like, I don't fucking know, you know? And I'm like, that's the day I started researching therapists in my neighborhood, in my area, because I was like, I don't know I've lost my mind. Like
Yeah.
I'm done. I flew away. I don't know what happened. And
Mhm.
that's when I started with my first therapist. And here's something I want to tell people who don't do therapy and are thinking about it. You have to shop around because your first therapist may not be the right one. And she sure as shit was not the right one for me. It
Really?
was bizarre for your first time, like begging for help. And you can tell that we were not on the same page. Uh, she said some stuff that like at like week 4 that I was like, she's racist. Why is she telling me about this? Like I don't want to get into it. She was bizarre. I left her, didn't do therapy again for a while. Some trauma from my childhood started like raising its head again, being like, you got to deal with this. And I started seeing a new therapist, and I've been with her for like 2.5 years now. And that's where the work has started. Like, that's where um, I feel like I'm rambling, but I will say, since my first therapist didn't work out, I dropped her. But what worked is I found this podcast called Anxiety Coaches Podcast. And I would just sit there in my headphones and listen to like 10 episodes in a row. And like
Mhm.
finally, like getting fed, like what's happening to me, what your brain's doing, I stopped drinking coffee for like a whole year, no caffeine. And then that's when I just like dove into therapy and doing all that work.
It's so comforting to know that that's normal, isn't it? Like when you
Mhm.
do, like talking about the anxiety coaching podcast, you know, there's a podcast out there devoted entirely to it that gets, you know, presumably some listeners. You know, like
Yeah.
it's okay. It's a real thing. We're all going through it. Like it's fine.
To
And
have
it's
someone tell me what derails it, because I thought I just lost my fucking mind, and then finding out like she was like, this is what it is, this is what it feels like. Some people love it, they feel like they're on the best drug on earth, they're like woo. But people like me who are kind of controlling on my own life, I hated it because I was like, am I stuck like this forever? Is this it? Like I don't know what this is. Yeah, so that is the only, okay, well, not the, I wrote down like 2 of my own, like, felt like I lost my fucking mind and had to climb my way back to reality. And then the first one, we've talked about it before, like when the first time I did acid as in high school, and I just remember everybody else would have like a good time and they're seeing colors and they're like, getting connected and they're giggling. And I was like, never in my life have I thought about what a schizophrenic feels. But the whole time I was on acid, I was like, this is what schizophrenics feel like. And
oh,
then there was a guy in my high school, and I've seen this on Tom Segura's podcast. I've seen a lot of people talk about this. Seems like everybody knows someone this happened to, that they were a normal person and then they did acid, and apparently schizophrenia was in their genetics and they flipped. And there was a guy I went to high school with that did acid once, never saw him again, was committed, went full crazy afterwards and stayed crazy. And when I was on acid, I remember being like, it's happened. I'm
yeah.
full crazy.
Mhm.
So fast forward to my 40s. My dad was adopted. We never knew anything about his family. I do 23andMe. I find all my family. I find out I'm from the Azores. I finally find out what my what I am. I'm Portuguese, and I find out that there is a strong string of crazy in his genetics, and his grandfather died of schizophrenia, and then his mom was batshit crazy. My dad was bad. It was like I was just like, oh, that's why I couldn't do acid, because it's fucking in me. I have crazy in me, and I'll never do it again.
It's just the Portuguese sailor lady in you. It's okay. Nothing to worry about.
Yeah. It's fun to find out I was Portuguese, though, finally.
You ever heard? I think it's called Fago music or Pharaoh music. Have you ever heard of that?
Mm-mm.
It's like, I don't know how to describe it, but it's like the Portuguese blues. So, quick history lesson.
Mm-hmm.
Napoleon took over Portugal, or he was poised to take over Portugal. So the king of Portugal decided, fuck this, I'm out of here. So instead of like defending the capital or fighting Napoleon, he grabbed up his whole retinue, everyone in his palace, his whole entire army, and then went over to Brazil, where the Portuguese lands in the New World.
So that's why they all speak Portuguese.
That's why they all speak Portuguese in Brazil. Yeah. But they left by, so he took soldiers, he took all the men with him, but he left the women and the children behind. Like it was just a straight up fleeing. So
Yeah.
this, I believe it's called Fago, and it's really sad, usually sung by a woman, but it's almost like Portuguese blues. And it's like songs about women missing their sailor husbands or their soldier husbands who have all been, taken away by the king. So they're
Oh,
basically left
wow.
home and abandoned to Napoleon and his army. So they're singing about missing their men and also wondering what the hell's going to happen to them in the future. I don't speak a word of Portuguese.
Yeah.
Every single, all you have to do is just go into Spotify. And it's Fago. I believe it's Fago, and it's
Okay.
just gorgeous music.
Ooh,
I
I'm
mean,
gonna listen to
never
that.
need a good cry. Turn that up.
Ela partiu, me abandonou assim, a lua branca por cães. Tem dó de mim.
It's funny that it was like sad and blues, not like feminist rage.
Yeah, I think it would probably there would probably be some like Riot Girl Portuguese music. But that's not what's.
I want to hear the feminist Portuguese punk. I think that's because like that's where my body goes is to rage. I mean, I do like my sad songs. We've talked about that a lot, but I also love my like I don't know if you ever watched that what was the name of that show with Christina Applegate and the other girl where they kill somebody, everybody's screaming if they know, but it makes me laugh because like her meditation would go to her car and put on death metal, and I was like, I connect with that so fucking hard. I get it because I can feel some rage.
That's the demons out.
So what about you? Let's talk about, you got some crazy?
For sure, definitely. I think I clearly have an eating disorder. I don't know of what kind, but to be 6'3" and under 150 pounds is ridiculous. Like something's wrong there. I don't know what.
I've seen your parents though. There's a big genetic thing. I've seen your mom, your dad, and your sister. You're all bony, tall people.
For sure, that's absolutely true. There's definitely something natural to it, but it's not like so I don't get out of the shower and look in the mirror and go, I got to lose some weight.
Yeah.
Quite the opposite. It's just like I need to put it on, but I just can't. It's just not in me. Obviously, I have a nicotine addiction that is absolutely insane. I have a lozenge under my tongue right now, and still all I can think about is, can I go outside and have a cigarette?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know why I'm so hardwired into that kind of addiction.
I wrote this down about like, we have the big crazy and then we have like a lot of little crazies that all fall under some sort of addiction. Like all my friends who I think there's a little crazy there, it's their form of addiction. Workaholic, drink too much, smoke too much, work out too much. There's addiction coping mechanisms are like in this sub-level of crazy.
And that's definitely what I have.
Yeah.
I think I arranged my entire life around my desire for whiskey, and I always have. I think that's just the kind of Mick I am, man.
It's soothing. It's you're not. Don't let me get therapy on you, but you're not facing your bullshit. You're coping. You're soothing it away. And I like a drink. I'm having a drink right now.
Coping back. I have a friend who is a therapist. And first of all, like you were saying about not getting along with your first therapist, she was getting ready. She does it like over Zoom, so she was kind of getting ready, and she's sort of rolling her eyes. She's like, I don't want to deal with this person. Like, it's so weird to like because she's talking about how guilty she feels as a therapist. She's just like, I just don't like talking to this person. We don't have a good connection, and it makes it really difficult for me to help her. So it's sort of like the other side of what you're talking about is therapists go through that as well. They're not.
My therapist broke up with me.
Yeah.
And it was just very like, I think we could tell like I just wasn't in the mood to share with her anymore, and she would say things and I would just look at her like, you're fucked up. And I think it was just we both, and she was like, I think we're okay, we're ready to end this. And I was like, yeah, we are. I mean, it was only like after like 5 weeks, like we met like maybe 5 times, and I think we both knew like we're not good together. Yeah. And she sucks, dude. I'm sitting there crying, telling her about like my traumas and all this shit. And she was like, tell me more about stand up. You did stand up. And I'm like, bitch, I don't want to fucking talk about that. Like, that was my coping mechanism for all this shit I'm trying to dive into now. Can we focus?
Yeah, that didn't hurt me. That helped me. I want to talk about what's important right now.
Yeah. Hey, she had a lot of shit. She just, I don't even want to talk about some shit she said that I was like, yeah, no, we're not good. We're not good. I'm not gonna give you any more of my money.
I asked my friend to give me a SNAP diagnosis, and she just kind of laughed bitterly. She was just like, "That's what everybody asks therapists to do." I'm like, yeah, I guess they probably do. So anyway, SNAP judgment time. Go ahead. And she just said one word. She just looked at me. She just goes, "Avoidance."
Yes, it's avoidance. It's the biggest word I've had in my mind lately. Everyone's problem is avoidance.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think she absolutely nailed me. I imagine that's true for a whole lot of people.
It's everybody.
Like, yep, I really do. Like I hide from every problem. If I can avoid it, I will, and I do. And that's where all my bad habits come from. You know, like I'm
Yep.
avoiding trying to put myself into a healthier body because that's hard. I don't want to go to the gym every day. I
It's
can't be
hard.
bothered to get up first thing in the morning and make a proper breakfast. That's boring, and I don't wanna. You know,
Mhm.
I don't want to have to like sit with my own thoughts and find a healthy way to get to sleep. Like, no thanks. I'd rather pour myself an old fashioned, smoke a little pot, and I'd go to bed that way. You
Yeah.
know, it's all avoidance on my part.
That's what I'm talking about. That thing about coming in, like, and people, they want the easy way out. Like, sometimes I think some of these, like, external shit, people like blame things on a retrograde. And I'm like, that is an intellectual cop out. And you know it. That's the thing, is they know it. They know it deep inside, because everyone knows why they're mad at themselves. We all know why we hate ourselves. And it's so much easier to place blame on something else than be like, it's time to go swim in my shithole and figure out and face myself and work on this shit that, and it's not always your fault, you're products of your environment, your traumas and everything, but you still got to face it and stop placing blame elsewhere, but anywhere but yourself or your bad luck. And accept that you've had some bad luck and some bad, shit happen to you. And, but you got to stop like blaming it for your continuing to have bad coping mechanisms,
I think that's what astrology does, is it's a jumping off point to talk about things like that. Like, it's very difficult to realize like I was well into my 30s before I realized that so much of the negativity that was around me and so much of the anger and the bitterness and the sadness that I had was entirely self-generated.
Yeah.
Like, I honestly thought it was external. I thought it was just me being a sensitive person, and the world was always shitting on me. I was definitely always raining on me kind of guy. I didn't realize it's like, you make the rain, asshole.
Yes. That's the biggest thing. And like, we make the rain, we make the choices, we're products of our environments. And sometimes bad things happen to us that are out of our control. And we still have to pay attention to how we reacted to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like astrology as the jumping off point, though. It's easier to talk about, well, Mars is in this position and that's why you're feeling that way. I know, like, you're right to roll your eyes, because it's not true, and they know it's not true. But it is a way, maybe they don't know it's not true, but it's a way to start talking about the inner work in a way that's not challenging. It doesn't create fear. Like, you're not talking to someone who's like, well, you're feeling this way because you're shitty. Eventually that seems to me where we're like therapy and self-help kind of winds up. And some people are comfortable with that thought. Like, if you've been sitting with it and living with self-hatred and all that stuff for a while, it's fine. But I think for other people, it can be really jarring to figure out, like, no, this is coming from inside you. You've got to unlock your own secrets. And it's easier to, we'll blame the planet at first. And when you get comfortable with that, we'll start putting the blame where it really belongs.
There's a beauty in astrology. Like, I do love all the art that comes with it. I love looking at a tarot card. Like, it's gorgeous. And I mean, I'm an astronomy lover. Like, I am obsessed with space and space travel and the void, and how unimportant we are in time and space. And some people just shut down when they are like, well, like, we're everything. And that's just the human ego. We think all of this is to serve us, when if the time and space abroad had a personality, and I think if you asked it, like, what did you think about humans, they'd be like, who? Like, because we're here for we're a dot on the big timeline of humanity, and we're a parasite on this planet. She's gonna fucking shake us off really soon. They're gonna be like, human, like they weren't even here long enough to think about, but we are like, this is all about us. And I'm just like, let that go. None of this is about us. And some people think they get stressed out about that, but to me, it's freeing. Like I don't have religion. I don't have any of that. And it doesn't stress me out to think that. To me, it's freeing. It's like, well, then let's just love each other and stop fighting over dumb shit and realize like we are an interconnected one being family here. Let's connect. I do believe in the collective stream of consciousness and like psychic abilities within each other. I mean, that's the only thing I believe in. But I just, maybe I have hope in the future, maybe in 100 years, our minds come together in more of that way of just like, hey, we're only here for a little bit. Let's stop fighting. Let's be a family. God damn it.
That's my big hope with social media and internet connectivity and everything like that. Like I'm hoping that all the ugliness we're going through now is just like growing pains. Like we're just getting used to this.
Cracking that egg before we build that omelet. Yes.
That's why I hope that's the case. Because I always thought that eventually we would get to the point where we start treating people on the internet the same way you treat people in real life.
Mm-hmm.
I'm only just now starting to realize what an idiot I am. Like, obviously the opposite is going to be true. And we're going to start treating people in real life the way that we treat people on the internet, at least for a time.
How long do you think that time is?
I don't know, man. I don't know.
That's where I wish I had like futuristic psychic skills. Like, how long are we in this? Because it's nasty right now. It's really bad.
It really is. But the first like generation of people who never knew a world without this kind of hyper connectivity are starting to become adults now and are starting to come out in the world. And I'm hoping that their experience kind of teaches the rest of us. Like I don't think I don't like being old, and I don't like feeling out of touch. And I don't think anybody does. And I think when this new generation starts taking power and starts being in the world, and we have to start dealing with them and realizing sort of how rationally and capably they deal with the pressures of this connectivity, we'll just start following suit. Just so we don't feel. I hope that's what happens.
Yeah. Every new generation gets a little more loving, it seems. Yeah. And let's hope that continues.
Yeah. And I think there's reason to believe that it will. I think you're crazy, Diane.
Good.
But you're a great kind of, I like the kind of crazy fucked up you are.
Thank you. I think I put Corbin through a little bit of hell. He may disagree, but I'm working on it.
That's all right. He's tough. He can handle it.
All right. Let's see. Let's move over to Jeremy and 6 Degrees of Tinted Windows and see how he connected Gnarls Barkley to Tinted Windows.
Hey friends, welcome to a makeup edition of 6 Degrees, where this week we're going to connect Tinted Windows to another supergroup, Gnarls Barkley. Following the success of their first single, Crazy, Gnarls will release 2 more singles off their debut, the third of which was a cover of the Violent Femmes' Gone Daddy Gone, which allows me to explore a Femmes connection, something I missed greatly during my hiatus last month. Femmes singer and guitarist Gordon Gano joined a star-studded group of musicians, including Juliana Hatfield and Iggy Pop, who played guest roles on the show The Adventures of Pete and Pete. This group also includes REM's Michael Stipe, who guested as Captain Scrummy, an ice cream salesman in the show's first season. No stranger to odd solo projects, Stipe also contributed to the pirate-themed album Rogues Gallery, singing the song Rio Grande with Courtney Love. Love also collaborated writing duties for Hole's third album, Celebrity Skin, with Billy Corrigan, whose main band, the Smashing Pumpkins, also features James Iha, the guitarist for Tinted Windows. So this week we went Gnarls Barkley to the Violent Femmes, to Michael Stipe, to Courtney Love, to the Smashing Pumpkins, all with help from Pete and Pete, to Tinted Windows. Back to Diana Ben.
That was a fun one.
I am going to get lost in a Pete and Pete YouTube hole. I know I am. I was a little too old to appreciate that show. I think I missed it, but I keep seeing I saw the Iggy Pop episode, which ends with "You little stooge."
That's awesome. I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I've never heard of this.
It was I can't even put it in time. I think late 90s.
Okay.
Early. I can't, mid 90s. Let's just go mid 90s.
Right.
Somewhere in the 90s, there was a show on Nickelodeon called Pete and Pete, and it was like a coming of age story. But yeah, they had all of these like legendary musicians who were showing up to teach kids lessons. It was like Sesame Street for 11 and 12-year-olds.
No, I love it. Yeah, I should check that out.
It might be an early thing.
All right, before I get into next week, I'm just gonna a little commercial for the podcast. I see the numbers, I see how many people listen, and it would just be really, really great if you guys could. And you hear, okay, I listen to a lot of podcasts, and they're always like, please rate and subscribe, rate and review. Let me just say, it really helps. And I every time I listen to a podcast and they're like, please rate and review. And then I just like, yeah, I don't. I've rated and reviewed maybe 3 podcasts that I like, but it just really helps. So if any of you have the time, just go to Apple Podcast and give the 5-star rating and just write a little something, even if it's just like, love it. And then it boosts us up a little bit more. And that's better than joining our Patreon, which you still can if you want to. That would really, really be a gift to the podcast. So please rate, review, and subscribe. Okay, next week is Patreon winner Ben's dad got to choose a song for us to cover. And I'm really excited about this. And I'm like, okay, so we're going to do What's Going On by Marvin Gaye. That song by itself is going to be dripping with stuff to talk about, but so is Marvin Gaye by himself. So we're going to have to figure out how to wrangle this episode. I mean, we can do it. We can talk about the song, talk about his life, but this is a good choice.
It should be a very full episode. And I don't think there's any way that What's Going On is not going to get a little yearny and a little political.
I know.
We won't be able to avoid that.
Oh, no.
Apologize. Come back and listen to our therapy episode if it bothers you.
Yeah, sorry. This is what we do here.
Don't go crazy.
Don't go crazy. Go to therapy.
Exactly. And
Boog.
1, 2, 3.
Rock the Cash Bar is produced by Diane Gallagher, music by Chuck Savage and Eddie Hawkins. Special thank you to Jeremy Essig for 6 Degrees and to Sara Wessling for the Guilty Pleasures vocals. Our website is rockthecashbarpodcast.com, and there you can find links to our Spotify playlist and to our Patreon. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you next week.